Welcome, folks, to episode number 243 with one of our favorite docs here, who's been regular with us on the podcast and back on 1100 KFNX, the radio days. We're talking with Dr. Kate Rhéaume today, and I'm your host of the podcast, Dr. Dejan Matijevic here from Healthy Habit Medical Center. And Dr. Kate is going to be discussing foundational health talking points here today. She's representing a company known as Natural Factors, where it's a proud partner of ours here at both the medical center and the health food store, who we've used clinically, and customers every single day come in and look for Natural Factors products. So that's why we love having Dr. Kate on to help educate us about what's going on there behind the scenes there at Natural Factors and products that we might want to have on our radar. Dr. Kate's an author and naturopathic doctor, graduate and former faculty member of CCNM, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto. She lectures internationally on many topics related to health and wellness, and she's a frequent guest on radio and television across North America. If you haven't heard of it yet, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, How a Little Known Vitamin Could Save Your Life, is a phenomenal book that's authored by yours truly here, Dr. Kate, best-selling book. Welcome back, Dr. Kate.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. Great to be back.
Well, I'm excited because this is important. We got to go foundational here today. People that are brand new even to the health world or that have been in it for many years, they can start to get off track, off the trails and hear all these different things that they need to be taking. And they come in with a suitcase. Literally, I've had people bring in a duffel bag full of 45 to 50 supplements, and then they come and ask us to streamline it for them to 10, 5 or less. So sometimes we got to get back to the foundations, right? Keeps us focused. So introduce that topic for us here today. Why did you choose to highlight what we're about to highlight?
It's one of the most common questions that I get asked, either from people who are completely new to nutrition and nutritional supplements, or to people, like you said, who've been taking all kinds of things and maybe want to simplify. If I'm just going to take three things, what should they be? Now, the answer to that, of course, this is absolutely not a prescription,
Of
and it
course. Yeah.
varies depending on the individual and their particular maybe concerns or health history. However, all things being equal, when we're looking at healthy individuals, you can't really beat a good multivitamin. For starters, a good omega and even a good probiotic in there. They do different things, complementary things. And I think in particular, the humble multivitamin has been in a way overshadowed in terms of its benefits with the latest and greatest things that come on the market. And I think people would be surprised at the amount of research and interesting studies there are to back up, its value as a foundational nutritional supplement.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, we're not giving any prescriptions here, medical advice. We're just trying to help people navigate the confusing world of supplements and help keep us on track if possible. Everything we're discussing, there's research to back it up. And we're just kind of using this as an education platform. So let's start with multivitamins. Why is it such an important thing? And that assumes multi-mineral as well. It's called a multivitamin, but oftentimes it will say multivitamin slash mineral on it. But get us started on this. What's a good starting point? Why should somebody consider potentially adding in a multi, even if they're already eating 3 square meals a day, eating their fruits and their veg? Tell us about that.
So a multivitamin and mineral, you're right, the minerals are important parts of the benefits we get from these supplements. First of all, they have come a long way since the one-a-days that your parents might have had in the kitchen cupboard. They're much more sophisticated now. And the big role that a multivitamin mineral supplement plays is bridging the nutritional gaps between even that 3 square meals a day, or the off days when our diet isn't perfect and whose diet is perfect, to that ideal intake. Now, that may sound like a small or unimportant job,
Right.
but studies have shown this makes a benefit, especially over long term, with regards to any individual nutrient, the body will play this or do this role of nutritional triage. So in other words, there's a bit of a shortfall of a given nutrient today. We're going to take that nutrient, use it for the most pressing concerns today that we need for our health, at the potentially at the expense of long-term health. So I like to think of a multivitamin. Yes, these nutrients that are in there play a role in immune health, bone health, energy metabolism, and those are all things that are important for today. But I think of it sort of as inexpensive long-term kind of health insurance,
Insurance,
to
right?
make sure you don't have that shortfall.
Right. And some research says, I mean, there's mixed on research, but we do have good, strong overall meta analyses that the benefits outweigh the risks on multivitamins for sure. And you want to make sure that you're covering all those bases, right? Especially with modern agriculture, how nutrients are depleted, or people that are taking proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole, pantoprazole, that can deplete nutrients. Even if you're eating all those amazing healthy meals, you might not be absorbing all that. So you want to get that insurance. And I like that you said it's like health insurance. So why is a whole food multivitamin potentially better than a synthetic version like the one from Whole Earth and Sea, for example, which I've used a lot myself, gone through several bottles of that, the men's multi there, and then also prescribed it to patients as well, 50 plus. There's a woman's formula, there's the one a day. But tell us about whole food multivitamins.
So these have a number of potential advantages. Now, you can't necessarily paint them all with the same brush because it really does depend on the formula. But when you're looking at a whole food multi, you're looking at a multivitamin and mineral formula that is extracting most, usually not every single nutrient, but many of the nutrients in there will be coming from food sources where that makes sense. In other words, where you can get a high enough potency and purity of a given nutrient from a food source, like vitamin C from amla, Indian gooseberry is a good choice, or selenium from garlic, or vitamin K2 from natto beans, the iodine from kelp. The list goes on here. And you often will pair that, and so particularly, with the whole earth and sea combinations, that's paired with a whole food base, which provides antioxidants, phytonutrients, all those nutrients for which there may not be a recommended daily intake, but we do know they play important roles in health. So it is really, like I said, has come a long way since those old orange one-a-days you might have had
Right.
sitting on the counter. And there are, big advantages here. As well, the forms of the nutrients. So here we're looking at B vitamins in their active form. So when we take in, as you know, Dr. Dan, B vitamins from foods, the body has to convert those. They're converted in the liver to the forms that actually interact with our cells, what we call them active or coenzymated forms.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And you can do that to the B vitamins and then put those in the supplement. And so there is an advantage here to having these immediately active instead of having to rely on the liver to convert them. So there's yet another advantage to nutrients in this form in a multivitamin complex.
Amazing breakdown. Thank you for that. So, folks, if you're looking for a cleaner, more natural approach to daily wellness, it's time to get to know Whole Earth and Sea by Natural Factors. They do have their own website as well, wholeearthsea.com, but this is through the Natural Factors website. And it's a premium line of plant based, non GMO whole food supplements designed to nourish your body, respect the planet. And tell us about that most, if not all, I don't think it's all, but most of the ingredients in here come directly from the Natural Factors farm. Is that correct? Or a
Yes,
lot of
that's
them?
right. Factor's Farm, yeah, Whole Earth and Sea Farms based in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia.
Uh huh.
It's 1,000 acres of organic farming area where there's a whole list. I could, name a few off the top of my head in terms of foods that are grown there that are used either as a source of the individual nutrients or as part of that whole food base that I mentioned. Things like, kale, blueberry, cress, black radish, I believe, is grown on the farms.
Uh huh.
It's quite a long list. And it's an amazing place to see and visit with fantastic soil quality. And that's another advantage. And it's something that would be hard to tell. I think you can now tell a little bit with the new labels. There's pictures of the farms
Oh,
to
really?
have an idea of what's going on behind the scenes, but
Good.
it's really remarkable to see that.
And you can see the ingredient list here for those on YouTube that are listening in. If you're on Spotify, highly recommend you also check out the YouTube version, or just head over to wholeearthc.com and look at the ingredient labels on the multivitamin products. Come talk to our store staff here. We're always stocked up and ready to go with the multivitamins through Whole Earth and Sea. But a lot of vitamins will, or multivitamins will end right here at like manganese, copper. But you can see like in the men's multi, we keep going here with maca, the FOS inulin, silica, papain, bromelain. So you'll get some anti-inflammatory benefits as well, vanadium. And then you even have this whole blend of the organic vegetable blend and ultra fruit blend, which includes beetroot, the radish that you mentioned, there it is, and then even some kelp seaweed for a little extra iodine support. So, and this is just the men's formula. What would be the big differentiator between the men's and the women's formula here? I'll pull both up.
Big differentiator. Oh, by the way, I also want to do a shout out to the fact that there's vitamin K2 in
Uh
these
huh.
multi, which you don't see in very many multivitamins.
Oh,
Of course,
got
that's
it.
near and dear to my heart, having written the book on it. But in
Yeah.
general, that's a meaningful amount of vitamin K2, even just in a multivitamin.
Interesting.
But to your question, so the big difference between the men's, there are a number of differences, but the major one is the women's multivitamin will contain iron because women of reproductive age who are losing iron every month need iron in their multivitamin on a daily basis.
Uh huh.
Whereas men, they are not losing iron regularly.
Right.
They don't need that. So the men's as well as the women's 50 plus will be iron free. There's other, some other differences in terms of the ratios of calcium and magnesium in between the women's and the men's, and some of the extra herbs added in. So some of the, the men have a couple of additional ingredients for prostate support, for example.
Yeah.
But the iron is a big differentiator.
Thank you, Dr. Kate. Perfect. So that was a great highlight and breakdown of not only multivitamins, but why someone might want to consider a whole food version. That doesn't mean it's from the store Whole Foods. We're talking about actual whole food that makes up the multi instead of synthetic only. And then tell us just about the soil before we go to the omega 3s and probiotics. And you kind of did cover already, like, are all multivitamins the same? We just broke that down, differentiated, like the K2, for example, that's found in the Whole Earth and Sea version, the kelp, the seaweed, the bromelain, and the other things are like maca. Those aren't typically found in multis. Tell us about the soil where whole food multivitamins are grown in. Why is that so important when it comes to producing a multivitamin that's whole food based?
Yes. So, I mentioned the Factors Farms, Whole
Right.
Earth and Sea Farms in the Okanagan that has an amazingly rich soil due to a number of factors, the organic and regenerative farming process, the alluvial soil deposits that the area floods in spring and deposits, more nutrients into the soil every year. And to your question, the first question is why would somebody who feels like they're eating 3 square meals a day or has a good diet want a multivitamin? And it's such a downer message, but the fact is, in most areas, soil just isn't as nutrient rich as it once was. Certainly, anybody eating a standard diet, soils and modern agricultural practices, soils become more depleted year on year.
Right.
That's not something that's discussed very often, but it's true. And so, these studies we're looking at in terms of the benefits of multivitamins has been in healthy people.
Got it.
And so, how do healthy people who are eating a good diet benefit from a multivitamin? Well, again, it's those little differences, the gaps in what we find in our food, the difference in vitamins and minerals in a carrot today versus 50 years ago. And so, a multivitamin can help there.
Perfect. So then switching gears to the second of our foundational health products that can support longevity and overall healthy lifestyle. We covered multis. Next up is the omega 3s, EPA, DHA, DPA, that whole omega 3 family different from omega 6s, omega 9s. Tell us about omega 3s. Why is this one of your keys in foundational health?
Omega-3 essential fatty acids, of course, they are essential, meaning that our body doesn't make them. We need to get them in through our diet. And if we don't, then there can be potential repercussions. And, we could go on all day about the roles that omega-3s play in our health, literally every cell of our body, our brain cells, the cardiovascular system, skin. It affects mood and you name it. There are so many benefits to omega-3s. You can't fit them into a multivitamin because of their nature, the size of the molecule. There just isn't room for that, which is why a separate supplement is required. They're very challenging to get through diet alone. You're looking at deep cold water fish, as well as grass-fed animal foods, which are hard to come by. Yes, you can get some of the omegas in through plant-based foods like flaxseed and hemp seeds, but
Right.
the body has to convert those to the active form, and that really varies per individual. And so this is one area where a supplement can really make a difference. And again, there is a lot of research on the benefits of supplementing with omega-3s.
And you kind of did cover also what they do for the body, from inflammation. Anything else there that specific like mechanisms of action? What else is going on there that you want to cover?
Inflammation. I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't touch on that, but it
Okay.
really is, inflammation in the body is a balance. You need some as part of the healing process, but you don't want it to get out of hand. So it's like a gas and the brake situation. And the omega-3s are like the brakes to help rein in inflammation, which has a tendency to get out of hand, especially as we get older. So really important role to play there. And that affects then, joint health, brain health, blood vessel health, for example. So that has repercussions throughout the body. There really isn't a system in the body that isn't affected in some way by omega-3s.
And that's actually an not often mentioned aspect of cancer and tumor development is when inflammation gets out of control. That's a root
Mhm.
cause of cancer development for basically every type of cancer. So, and there is research looking at omega 3s protecting in that area as well. So, that's something to look into for people if they're on an anti-cancer protocol or trying or have a family history of it or a loved one just recently passed or got diagnosed with that. You might want to look into omega 3 research for cancer as well. Why is a quality brand so important when it comes to fish oils? I mean, you can go now to a local gas station or Bed Bath and Beyond, Dr. Kate, and get fish oil. Why is that so
Yeah,
important?
it's true. I've seen them at the dollar store and the
Really?
labels. Oh yeah, I have. It's ridiculous. And
Dollarama?
yep,
That's
and,
hilarious.
and there really is. I hope nobody's buying them, but anyway, when it comes to omega-3s, quality makes a huge difference for a number of reasons. Basically, that can boil down to two things: purity and potency. Purity, we know that when you're looking at fish oils, fish, even if it's wild caught, naturally contains environmental contaminants. So the
Right.
oil needs to be purified in a way to remove those without damaging the oils. And then that needs to be tested once the product is produced. It needs to be tested at the shelf life of your product. So you know that if you buy a fish oil that's been sitting on the shelf for 6 months or in your cupboard or fridge for a year, that it's been tested to prove it is still good and not oxidized. That's extremely important.
Right.
And then the potency. Are you getting enough of the omega-3s to have a benefit? And that gets a little bit trickier in terms of
Mm.
reading labels and amounts of fats. And so this is where you want to maybe not do the guesswork or see if you can figure this out and go with a reputable brand. That makes a huge difference when it comes to quality in fish oil.
Well, one that we can look at is through natural factors, the RX omega 3. Like, even just on the Google search here, you can see it has over 4.1 thousand reviews, which is a lot. I mean, a lot of supplements only have a couple hundred. We're talking over 4,100, 4,100 reviews, 5 star. So that's pretty good when it comes to a free marketplace and people just giving their honest opinion about a product. Tell us why RX Omega 3 has so much love behind it, behind the customers. Tell us
For the
about
pe
that.
Two reasons. People who are in the know and are looking for an omega-3 supplement that checks all the boxes, they'll realize that this one checks all the boxes at an affordable price. In other words, purity, potency, it's been tested, it meets what we sometimes refer to as pharmaceutical grade, and it means it's produced under very high level of guidelines in terms of the production,
Yeah.
as well as people who have taken it and found that they get the results that they are wanting from it. Maybe they notice the difference in, skin, hair, and nails, or maybe they get the results that they want on their next blood work. So, in other words, people taking it for years and getting what they want at an affordable price from their omega-3.
We even have an algae version for vegetarian, like non-fish eater people. The algae version, which gives you 770 milligrams omega-3 per two soft gels. And then, of course, just the classics, the RX omega-3 1260. And then there's even the ultra strength, the 2150. It might be useful to work with your doctor if you're already established with a naturopath or a functional medicine physician, and maybe run these two by them, and they would get a better idea of which one to choose for you based on blood work, your CRP markers, your inflammation scores, whether or not you're dealing with rosacea or different skin issues, or even your dermatologist. They're actually running ads now on TV, Dr. Kate, for fish oil. Can you believe it? We've made it to
Amazing.
the TV commercials. It's pretty interesting. There's even the mini gels version, and these have no fishy aftertaste, which is good. I can confirm that. I've used many bottles of RX Omega 3 myself. Super effective for the hair, skin, as you mentioned, Dr. Kate, but also keeping your inflammation inside your body at bay as well. Did you want to add
Mhm.
anything else to any of these before we switch to our
Um,
last foundation?
Yes, just briefly, I'm glad you called out the mini gels because by their nature, omega-3s are pretty large molecules. So if you want a
Mm,
significant amount, the soft gels can be on the larger side.
right.
Not everybody likes that or is okay with that. And so the mini gels are a nice option. Of course, you have to take a few extra because they're smaller, but that can be really helpful for people who have trouble swallowing, larger soft gels. And again, that the no fishy aftertaste, this enteric protection is kind of baked right into the soft gel. It's incorporated right in there. And so that tendency for fish oil to burp back, that's very normal, but that can be essentially clamped down with this all natural enteric protection right in the soft gel.
Got it. And if people are following like a lower fat diet, if their cholesterol's through the roof, I mean, it's only giving you a gram of total fat
Mhm.
per two soft gels, so there's nothing at all to worry about there. And
Yeah.
it's coming from anchovies, sardines, and or mackerel. Those would be the three sources, which are all super rich in omega 3s. You're also getting DPA there at 42 milligrams per two soft gels. So thank you for highlighting the mini gel. I think it's the first time we highlighted the mini gel version. And then one more time, I want to flash this on the screen. This is the algae RX omega 3, vegetarian, vegan friendly, sustainably sourced algae. So that will also give you specific amounts here, 400 and 200 of DHA and EPA respectively, through the algal oil. So keep that in mind as well. And you don't have to be vegan vegetarian. You can mix it up. Maybe you get both, the regular RX omega 3 and the algae version. You get best of both worlds. I
Mhm.
like that approach, me personally, or using that
Agreed.
with patients instead of only one source. Why not get both? So that's important right there. And then I'll end the screen share. Perfect amount of time here we have left to at least introduce our last foundational step here, probiotics. Dr. Kate, tell us about it. They outnumber us 10 to 1 bacteria. Why are probiotics so important?
That's right. Well, of course, we have a whole world in our digestive tracts, our microbiome, and that is very dynamic. It responds to foods we eat as well as environmental factors that can affect us and illness, medications. And when that balance goes out of whack in the microbiome, it can have impacts on our health. So,
Right.
eating fermented foods, eating high fiber diet, keeping out the processed foods, all that is beneficial for the microbiome. But every now and then you might want to top up with a good quality probiotic. So this introduces beneficial bacteria that are maybe more challenging to get from diet, ones that have been studied clinically to show benefits for the microbiome, and a probiotic is a way to get those in there.
And this, of course, like you mentioned, is going to help our gut health, our microbiome health. Some people have they're outnumbered by the bad bacteria in the gut. They need more of the good ones, so a probiotic can help reset that. But then it even helps produce butyrate or short chain fatty acids if you have the right amount of probiotics living in the microbiome, which can cut inflammation and cancer risk and all that. So probiotics, they're really tackling multiple angles of gut health. Why is that so important? Some say our health begins in our gut, right?
Absolutely. Yes, that's one of the basic principles, certainly of naturopathic medicine, as well as a very old principle of medicine. And
Yeah.
that is, arguably true. I think that's important for people to be aware of, that what happens in the gut and the balance of good and bad bacteria have a major role to play there. Then affects the rest of the body. Most of our immune system is found along the gastrointestinal tract. And so those bacteria will send messages, good or bad, depending on the nature of the bacteria, to the immune system through that route, not to mention things like actual digestive health, regularity,
Right.
things like abdominal discomfort related to eating certain foods. Maybe you have taken antibiotics or been sick with some sort of a bug, and that has either cleaned you out or upset the balance of good and bad bacteria. There's lots of reasons to want to restore that balance, including just the aging process. We know
Mm,
we tend to
right.
lose bifidobacteria, the beneficial ones from the colon, as we age, even from 50 plus, and those get crowded out by less healthy or less desirable species of bacteria.
Absolutely. And then as we age, there's also a weakening of our stomach acid, which can then allow the bad bacteria to thrive and then even more outnumber the good ones. So thanks for highlighting that. Naturalfactors.com, go to collections and just type in probiotics, and you'll see their full lineup here of premium probiotics to get that good gut feeling, as we like to say up here on Natural Factors. Bring balance back to your life with Natural Factors premium line of probiotics made with only the best good bacteria, and this supports everyday intestinal wellness as well as specific health concerns if you're working with a doctor. Carefully selected, acid resistant, antibiotic compatible strains. We'll finish on that note here in a second, but you can see they have the Combiotic, one for as a good travel companion here, the Travel Biotic. We have the Critical Care 100 billion version, 12 billion, 12 by 12, and then there's even the 24 by 12. So there's a bunch of options here. There's a specific women's everyday if you've been dealing with frequent UTIs, which is much more common in the female population. There's even the woman's ultra. So there's everything you need, folks. We'll match it up with you here at Healthy Habit with our knowledgeable staff, or you can even show this to your physician. He can help you pick one and then come into our store here and purchase that. It's an easy way to do that as well. I'll finish on that question. Can somebody that's taking an antibiotic, Dr. Kate, take a probiotic? Potentially.
Potentially, yeah, it depends on the specific prescription, and this is a good thing to speak to your pharmacist about if you are in question.
Right.
But the strains that are in these specific formulas, each of them have undergone what's called an antibiotic profile. So they check each probiotic to see if it conflicts or counteracts with specific antibiotics, if it's killed off by those, for example, and they understand then if you're going to be able to supplement with this on an ongoing basis, or say subsequent to having been treated with antibiotics, and not cause an issue. Of course, you don't want your probiotics to be killed off. You don't want your antibiotics to be counteracted. And so that has been tested for the different strains.
Amazing. What a perfect place to end it there. We can keep going, but that's an amazing amount of information here from Dr. Kate today. We introduced the foundational health products, and then we dove deep specifically into each one of those, from the omega-3 options to probiotics and why they're so important, and how gut health is foundational for our overall health. So it's perfect we ended on that. And then, of course, the multivitamin, multimineral options through Whole Earth and Sea, and the value of having healthy soil when whole earth supplements are being produced. Always appreciate your time, Dr. Kate. Thank you.
Likewise, you're welcome. Great to see you, Dr. Dayan.
And I'll add in drkatend.com is a good source to stay in the loop with what Dr. Kate's up to, and that's doctorkatend.com, naturalfactors.com, and wholeearthandseed.com. I'll include all those links under the description below. Thanks, Dr. Kate.